Television, Channel 9, Chicago.
Three boys on a mission to places and creatures unknown and explorers. One of 4 new summer films we'll be reviewing this week on At the Movies, the movie review program. I'm Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times. In addition to Explorers this week, we'll also be reviewing a comedy named The Man with One Red Shoe, starring Tom Hanks from Splash. And we'll look at the Black Cauldron, the new full-length Disney animated adventure. But first, Gene starts with The Heavenly Kid, and good heavens, it looks like Aroma, the educated skunk, is here. He usually doesn't turn up this early in the show, Gene.
Oh, but there's a reason.
Usually just here for the stinker of the week.
That's right. That's because A Heavenly Kid is the week's worst movie. The Heavenly Kid is a pathetic teenage comedy that borrows elements from dozens of other teen films, as well as the central life-after-death gimmick from Here Comes Mr. Jordan and Heaven Can Wait. A teenage hot rodder from the 1960s is killed drag racing. He's taken to purgatory, which in this film looks like a neon-filled singles bar, which is actually my idea of closer to hell. And there he meets a scruffy guardian angel who says he'll give him a chance to earn his way into heaven by sending him to the present, the 1980s, where he's supposed to perform a selfless act. Here is his arrival into the present.
I'm coming. Fast. Oh. So, who's it going to be? Which one of these lucky kids is my son? The Spazzola.
Gee, weren't you surprised by that? Isn't that a clever bit of writing there? They really fooled us, didn't they, with that comic line, the Spazzola. Later, the kid from the 60s teaches the nerd how to dress better.
You got no confidence because you got no style. But we're going to change all that. How? Same way we're going to get that cute little blonde to notice you. I'm going to give you a new image. I'm going to give you a flash.
And we've seen that scene countless times before in teenage movies, the stud from out of town helping the square kid get more hip. I'm at the point now in teen movies where I'd like to see a film about a cool kid being taught to act like a jerk. That would at least be interesting, or at least different. Couldn't be any worse than The Heavenly Kid, that's for sure. The Heavenly Kid also deals, as Secret Admirer did, and I'm ashamed to admit that I saw both films, with a kid who doesn't love the girl who loves him. Instead, he loves the girl he shouldn't love, the blonde, naturally, the rotten blonde. He should love the brunette. Brunettes are always good in the movies. We gave that lecture 3 weeks ago, part 2. And like Back to the Future, we also see a youngster meet his parents at a completely different time in his life. But those are just gimmicks in these pictures. The whole film is gimmicks. No personalities are developed. It just jumps from one story twist to another to the inevitable happy ending. The Heavenly Kid is just a generic teenage movie. They ought to advertise it with one of those universal product code symbols and the title, Teenage Movie.
Fabulous idea. It's all be in black and white, right? With stripes across it.
Exactly.
I'm glad that we showed that second scene where the music plays while he's trying on the clothes, because that's an example of something that this movie carries to an amazing extreme, and that's my old concept of the semi-obligatory lyrical interlude, or the semi-oli for short, which is when they're totally bankrupt of any ideas, they have no dialogue, the characters aren't real enough to actually talk to each other.
At all in the
play a record on the soundtrack that maybe you can sell to MTV, and then have the guy stand around trying on clothes. At least they could have played Shopping for Clothes by the Drifters, the Coasters, some kind of good music. Instead, not only do you have that scene, but then you have 2 other semi-olis that follow right in a row. There are three right in the middle of the movie, bringing everything to a dead, screeching standstill.
Yeah, if you're interested in seeing a film about a kid meeting his parents, the film to see is obviously Back to the Future. This is junk. That's why Aroma was here.
And Aroma, I don't want you to leave yet, because next at the movies, The Man with One Red Shoe, and Aroma, I think we're going to need you again.
There he is, the man with one red shoe.
You know, they kind of like to be petted, and I'm not surprised, because I don't think they get much petting in the wild. I asked Roma to jump over here to my side of the aisle, because our next movie is also a stinker of the week. It's named The Man with One Red Shoe, and I had a good reason for asking Roma to stay around, because I think this one qualifies as a tie with your stinker of the week. This is the first time in history, and at the movie's first, two stinkers the same week.
The point is that we're trying to make is that there are an awful lot of bad movies week after week. These are especially lousy, and we're signaling those who might watch television without the sound on that it's a very, very bad movie.
Thank you, Gene, for explaining that difficult point. I didn't realize why we had Aroma here. The first question I have about The Man with One Red Shoe is, why did they make this movie? This is a remake of an older French comedy named The Tall Blonde Man with One Black Shoe, and I didn't think that was a funny movie, but this one is really a bomb. It stars Tom Hanks, the sometimes talented young actor. He was in Bachelor Party and Splash, as a completely innocent bystander who happens to be selected at random by a government spy who needs a handy suspect. Now, once he's fingered, all the other spies in the service think he's a spy, including Laurie Singer, who in this scene checks out his ID.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Excuse me. How about the case?
It's a violin. What difference does it make? Why don't we just kill him?
What we do want to do is find out who he is and what he knows.
Spies follow him everywhere. He doesn't know why, but the different intelligence agencies are fighting over him, and meanwhile he falls in love with Laurie Singer, only finding out that she's a spy too.
Look, let me just ask one thing.
Is there something going on that I should know about?
Richard, tell me. Are you an agent?
No, but I used to have an agent.
Do you work for the government? Are you a spy?
No, of course not. I'm no worse spy than you're a spy.
Richard, I am a spy.
If you were looking closely there, that guy in the dark glasses is one of the best character actors in American movies, Dabney Coleman, and the cast also includes Charles Durning, Jim Belushi, and a lot of other talented performers who are marooned here by a classic idiot plot. We've already defined the semi-obligatory lyrical interlude. Now let's go through my whole repertory of little devices here. The idiot plot, Gene, that's a plot that would be over in 5 minutes if everybody in the movie wasn't a complete idiot. In this case, everybody thinks Hanks is a spy, but he's not a spy. And they could easily find that out. They have to be real idiots to keep from figuring it out, but then the movie would be over. This movie is an insult to the intelligence, and in particular because it's based on the premise that we're going to be surprised by a series of mistaken identities, but since we understand that that's the premise, we're sitting there not being surprised by the cases of mistaken identities.
You got that right, and here's some more that's wrong with the film. For one thing, the spy, if I remember correctly, the French film, had a very comic, silly performer in the beginning of it.
Yves Robert was his name.
Now, here, because it's an American movie, here's a real good difference. They have to take a guy, they won't make him look that silly, because no American star, you see, wants to act that silly and stupid. So they've got this Tom Hanks guy, and he's going to play it more as a likable, romantic kind of lead, because he wants to be concerned about his career, and they want him to be sold to teenagers who might like him. So you see, so suddenly we take a farce and a farcical character, and you have him played very flatly by Tom Hanks. I couldn't care what happened to Tom Hanks in this picture, because there's no character there.
That's right. The guy in the French film, which incidentally, I didn't think
it was that special, but at least...
he was kind of tall and goofy, and he had funny hair, and he was walking around like kind of a skinny Jerry Lewis, which made it funny because he didn't have any idea either what was happening. And you're right here. Tom Hanks is trying to be in a different movie, and indeed, he's probably on the right track. He probably should have been in a different movie.
Well, coming up next at the movies, 3 kids head off into outer space in a tilt-a-whirl chair.
That was the most important thing that ever happened. Couldn't you feel it? That feeling way inside? We were flying. Come on, Ben, make some sense. We almost didn't come back.
The plot of our next movie, named Explorers, is becoming sort of standard stuff at the movies these days. 3 kids build a makeshift spacecraft, and using an alien force field, they zoom off into outer space looking for life. Now, can you believe it? We just sort of accept that as something that kids do every day now, at least every day in the movies. Here are the 3 kids. One's a dreamer, another's a loner, and the third is a junior scientist who has discovered how to make connections with this force field.
How do you make it come on?
Like this.
I didn't know it could get that big.
Me neither. Turn it off, man. Get him out of there. Come on. I'm trying. It's not working. Where's it going?
I think they got that little gopher from Caddyshack, actually. Explorers is pretty good when it comes to setting up the kids. They're a fresh, entertaining bunch, all right. But the film really bogs down when the kids, now launched into outer space, are captured by an alien spaceship and meet creatures, and we're really rooting for something interesting for them to find that, meet creatures that are really kind of dumpy. One is sort of an outer space Marilyn Monroe or a Miss Piggy who looks like she was made out of old tires and bowling pins. Real boring.
Do you have a girlfriend on Earth? A girlfriend? Oh, hey, of course I've got a girlfriend. No, I'm special. I'm not tied down, if that's what you mean.
Now, there are other space creatures that they meet up there, and one is kind of cute for a while. He talks a gibberish English based on his seeing a lot of American TV. But that's a stand-up comedy bit that runs about 5-6 minutes, and it's like Johnny Carson's monologue. Once it's over, the show gets less interesting, you know? And I walked out of the theater after seeing Explorer. Well, it was not bad, but just not enough payoff when we get to outer space. That's what we're really looking for, something dazzling, and it's just not there. So for me, a mixed review on Explorers.
I vote thumbs down, Gene. I thought the problem with the movie was a real inconsistency of tone. We begin with a universe which, given the fact that these kids are going to go to outer space, is perhaps a bit fantastical, but nevertheless, they're treated like real kids. They live in a real house. They go down in the basement. They play with their computer. One is smart. One is a loner, as you described. And it's supposedly realistic. Then they get into outer space, and suddenly we're in some kind of a parody, a comedy. These creatures in outer space are not like any aliens that we are even remotely supposed to believe really could be or might be up there in outer space. They are a stand-up comedy act, and it's a real disappointment. I think that these kids are bright enough and smart enough and daring enough that when they get to outer space, they deserve to find something better than Milton Berle imitations.
Yeah, there won't be a sequel to this film, I predict.
I think you're right.
But the kids deserve one because they deserve to go to a much more interesting place. They should have been captured by somebody else. I don't know how to explain it, other than maybe this film was just simply made very quickly. In other words, in the throes of E.T. and that, they said, let's get this
of course,
out.
and the director, Joe Dante, did the segment of Twilight Zone where the guy traveling along the road meets the people in the house who seem to be influenced by television, and maybe this is an extension of that idea, but it's the wrong idea to have as the payoff for this movie.
Yeah, one of the things you don't want to know in a space film is that it's less interesting up there than it is here.
Good point. Next at the movies, a brand new animated adventure from Disney about a battle for a mysterious Black Cauldron. Our next movie is a brand new full-length animated adventure cartoon from the Walt Disney Studios, and no matter how uneven the Disney output may have been in recent years, I always wait with a lot of anticipation for their new animated films, maybe because of all the great memories I have of Disney classics: Pinocchio, Snow White. Those were the movies.
I bet you could go on and name other ones,
I could name 32 more, I believe. And you know, when I was a kid, I thought animated films were more real than live-action films because the edges were sharper and the colors were brighter.
Right.
That's before I realized that most people look like you and not like Pinocchio, although it's close.
Did you ever identify with Dumbo?
With Dumbo?
Yeah.
No, I never did identify
How about
with
Mrs. Jumbo?
No, I never identified with Mrs. Jumbo either, you know.
Okay.
And I'm sure that you, I think we'd better just move on and review the film. Thank you. And because I'm thinking in a second of who you would identify with, but I'm afraid it wouldn't be in a Disney film.
Yeah, go right ahead.
What was the one from the Black Lagoon? And this new film is close. It's called The Black Cauldron, and I'm happy to say that I really did like this movie because one moment I was sitting there thinking profound film critic type thoughts about the future of animation and whether this would make it or not. The next minute, I was into the story itself and really having a good time. This movie tells the story of a legendary Black Cauldron, which is the source of evil in the kingdom, and the struggle by a young warrior named Terran who seeks to find the cauldron before it's captured by the evil horned king. But first, in this scene, we meet some of the characters in the film.
Oh, never mind. No telling where Henwin is by now.
Oh, Master! Now, Googie remembers. Yes. Clever, sharp-eyed Googie saw the piggy run. Yes, right through the forest. I saw it. Come! Googie will find the lost piggy. Then we'll be friends forever. Munchings and crunchings in here somewhere.
Before long in this movie, the young warrior and a beautiful princess are the captives of the evil horned king.
My, such a brave path group of pig boys, scullery maid, and a broken-down minstrel. Perhaps it may interest you to see what fate has in store for you. Now I call my army of the dead. Only moments away from victory. My greatest triumph.
We did it, sire! We did it! Oh, I mean you. Yes, of course. You did it, sire.
That little guy is named the Creeper, and he's a little servant who kowtows to the Horned King all the time. He kind of reminded me of Mel Brooks in The 12 Chairs. Remember? Crawling around on his knees and kissing the hands of all of his servants and masters and so forth. I really liked it. I mentioned again the way that this movie is filled with all kinds of characters like that, and I also liked the special effects of the whole movie being animated as special effects, but the idea of that cauldron with the tower of flame and so forth, and when the cauldron explodes and everything at the end of the movie, it's kind of thrilling, it's kind of exciting. The plot of The Black Cauldron is fairly involved, and perhaps I ought to explain that one of the best friends of that young warrior is a cute little pig who is psychic and who has the power of being able to look into a pot of soup and make the pot of soup mirror the location of the Black Cauldron. Now, this led to one of the funniest experiences I've ever had as a movie critic, Gene. I have to tell this story on you, because here you are, a college graduate, a philosophy major. We're sitting there looking at the Black Cauldron, and suddenly I realize that Gene has come over next to my chair, and he's whispering, "But Raj, if the pig is psychic, why can't they find out where the Black Cauldron is before the Horned King does?" And I'm thinking, that's a good point. Then I'm realizing this is really an interesting conversation for adults to be having, you know, this, the credibility of psychic pigs. And so I hand it over to you. You think that the problems like that in the plot
well, that's one problem.
Really bothered you.
There's another problem, which is that supposedly this Black Cauldron is the source of evil in the world, you know. Well, the king, the bad guy is already evil. He's plenty evil. He's so evil that everyone's afraid of him. So what does he need the cauldron for?
Well, I think if he gets the cauldron, then he can be even more evil, and he can rule everything and take over the entire kingdom.
Right now, he's not doing so bad. I don't see anybody else with a franchise around the neighborhood. I liked the Creeper. I loved the pig. If the movie were about the Creeper and the pig, fine. The human characters, the quote human characters with their English accents, why not make it a good old Americans? You know, that's what I liked about Snow White. It had a nice American voice. Anyway, no, then it would be fine. I think that all the human characters in the film are ridiculous. I love some of the animals. There is one nice scene, I'll give you credit for what you're saying about filling the frame, where they have a whole bunch of like fireflies, it looks like, or something like that. That's beautiful to see. That reminds me of the house being filled in Snow White with all the little birds and all that garbage.
Well, I'll go this far with you. I think that when you're talking about the heroes being too much of a clean-cut, uncomplicated, it's the same thing that they did in The Man with One Red Shoe, where Tom Hanks is the hero.
Right.
And he doesn't want to be too silly or too ridiculous because he's got to be the romantic lead. Here, it's a cartoon character, but they do the same thing.
Yeah.
The lead in the cartoon is the least interesting character in the cartoon. But on the other hand, the Horned King, with a voice by John Hurt.
Yeah.
That's a fabulous character.
Well, I don't know if it's fabulous. I mean, the witch in Snow White blows this guy off the map completely.
I don't know. I think it'd be a pretty good... this is really getting to be fascinating. Who's worse, the witch or the Horned King? We could talk about this all night. Let's take, though, another look at the movies we reviewed on this week's program. We started out with two stinkers of the week, so it goes without saying that we vote thumbs down for both of them. For The Heavenly Kid, a really dumb movie about a teen angel, and also for The Man with One Red Shoe, with Tom Hanks as an innocent bystander in a truly idiotic spy comedy. Two more thumbs down for Explorers. We liked the beginning of the story about the junior high school kids that find a way to fly to space, but we were both disappointed by the aliens they find there. And finally, with split decision on The Black Cauldron. I voted thumbs up for the Disney animated adventure, but Gene thought the story was too shaky to support the characters, even though, I want to be sure I'm right about this, you like the pig.
Love the pig, love the creeper. And also, it was Pierre Richard, Roger, who was that gangly character in the French film that this One Red Shoe film is based on.
Okay, so what can we recommend this week? We can give half a vote to The Black Cauldron, and for the rest of it, go to see
anything with a human being in it that we reviewed, forget.
Okay.
If it's got a pig in it, we loved it.
That's it for this week. Next time, we'll be back with reviews of 4 new movies, including Fright Night, about a teenager and a vampire that lives next door, and Real Genius, about 2 geniuses toughing it out in a high-tech college. That's next week, and until then, we'll see you at the movies.